what we're really going to focus on is thinking like a real estate investor. So if you can think like a real estate investor, then you can invest in real estate, which is always a successful story. Or you can loosen up some inventory of people who weren't otherwise thinking of selling, but now that they're being approached in a manner that makes sense to them, they may want to sell and you want to list. We're going to talk to Spiros Viriotis, who's a friend of mine. I've known him for over 30 years, and he is a real estate investor and a real estate broker. So he is going to add value from all perspectives, because what we're trying to, our main goal is, if you can think this way, which is very differently than the way a lot of broker owners teach or trainings teach you to sell. If you can think like the real estate investor, the future is going to be really bright. So that's our goal, but we are going to talk about short sales. So shoot me a chat if you're doing the doing this for it. And Mary, if you jump off, just shoot me a chat so we don't ask you questions. But the goal with Mary is this, Mary, ask all your questions, because you are a real estate investor, right? Esin, Kate, what Mary is doing is asking me a lot of questions, very inquisitive, very intelligent, but and savvy, I might say, questions, but just uneducated.
Well, thank you.
But uneducated, because she doesn't know. So she's a beginner real estate investor who will have very different questions or thoughts than Spiros, who's been doing this for 30 years. So we have the sage wisdom and the innocence of somebody who wants to do this, because what we want to do is make sure that you're dealing with investors that are going to generate income for you, right? One of the things Spiros will talk about is going to these weekend warrior workshops and thinking you're a real estate investor, right? You spent $1,500, so now you're certified and you're going to go be a real estate investor, and you're very far from it. And sometimes those people will waste your time, really waste your time. But what I want to do to start off, we start off every meeting. I was waiting for some folks to come in and dragging my feet a little bit, but it looks like they're not going to make it on time for the 2-hour credit. What I do want to share with you all, though, is that this is not only about 2-hour credits. This is about learning. And any of your friends and colleagues who are looking to learn about what we're about to teach, share this with them. Let them know what we're doing and avail them the opportunity to join us, but at the same token, earn those 2 credits that they may need in 2 years that they didn't realize they were going to need. So with that, what we like to do is remind you that this is being recorded. Okay. Some people who are doing it for credit, and let me know, we have to see you. Some people on Zoom don't like to look at themselves. In the 3 dots above, you can actually hide your self view. I don't know if anyone realized you can do that. So you're not actually staring at yourself the whole time, but don't forget that we're seeing you, right? Even though you're not seeing yourself. So little fun fact, another fun fact that I wasn't aware of is that the chats that go back and forth are recorded and stamped on the interweb, so they can be received. So if you type something out there, it could be posted on our website. That's what the South Shore Chamber of Commerce said. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty heavy. I was on like a CEO panel, and I was actually chatting with someone, and then the next week, I mean, I was all good. Nothing bad would be put on their website, but somebody else must have chatted something that wasn't great. And they reminded us at the beginning of that meeting that they could post what you write on their website. I thought it was a really interesting warning of like, whoa, I wouldn't want my grandmother to read that, so I'm not going to write it. And also what we want to talk about is making sure your tech is working. So the way we like to launch out of the meeting is to introduce yourself, introduce the company that you're with, and give your positive COVID moment, not your COVID positive moment, but your positive experience, what you have come away with during this time that wouldn't have happened but for COVID. So I'll start. I'm Mark Stiles, Stiles Law, but also founder of the real estate school at 892. And one of my positives has been I've chosen to walk my dog on different trails within the town and the South Shore. And I've explored and seen a lot of different areas that I didn't know existed, which was great. So Spiros, I'll have you go next because I'm looking at my screen that way.
Hey everybody, I'm Spiros Voriotis, and as Mark said, I grew up here in Massachusetts. I grew up in Sharon, and right now my wife and I and our family are out on our house over here in Cape Cod and Eastham, and just excited to be with you guys. And like I said, I've put up. I don't say I know Mark. I say I put up with Mark for 30 plus years. So love him. He's a great guy, and you guys are in good hands with him as far as doing all the transactions. But as far as COVID goes, you don't know this about me, but one of the things I was doing pre-COVID is I would travel the country, and I would do live events and live coaching with students, whether they're agents or investors all over the country, speaking in rooms of 30 people all the way up to 1,000 people. And it was fun. So, but one thing that COVID has allowed me to do is not travel. So it's been really great being able to be home for the last 6 months. I'm still coaching. We get to do everything virtually now. So it's kind of turned our world upside down. But it's really been nice just to be home and kind of do the things, all those projects that we've been putting off for the last 2 years. I'll get it next week and I'll get it next weekend. And then here we are. And it's actually, I was just thinking this morning, it's actually been good inside of the bad. The overall bad, there's been a lot of good inside of us just connecting as a family and moving forward on that. So that's been fun.
I'm hearing a lot of that, a lot of really inspiring goods that have come from this. Jenny?
Hey there, I'm Jenny Pitts. I'm on the team at Stiles Law. And my COVID positive is having myself, actually a reminder for myself and also for my kids and family that, the concept of resiliency, not everything goes your way and your parents can't always fix it. If you are, if something isn't going your way, and life still goes on and it's still pretty good. I've also, like everybody else, had more time to spend with my family. My husband doesn't commute to Boston on a daily basis, so I get to see him. He's recaptured 3 hours of his day every day, not traveling. And it's been a net positive for us. I mean, it's an inconvenience to have a pandemic going on, but it's not terrible as far as I'm concerned.
And
Thanks.
I have Esin next on my screen.
Hi, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Esin Susol. I work with Castles Unlimited. We have an office in Newton and Boston. I mostly work with international clients, and most of them are investors. But for the COVID, as far as COVID goes, it's been so busy that I didn't get a chance to rest at home. Actually, I couldn't get quarantine, nothing. I was just hoping to stay home more, but it didn't happen, which is a good thing. I'm so thankful. But I just saw that it's been really intense market, and especially for people who are ready to buy, there was a good opportunity for them to move forward quickly. And there was a lot of people actually who was waiting for that time, I guess. So my job was just educating them from the beginning. Even there's a COVID, we can still be able to make the deals. I'm not sure, maybe it was because in the beginning, I reacted very early. We just took very extra precautions, and in terms of open houses and also meetings, we just make everything online immediately. We started to do Zoom meetings with our clients and virtual showings and stuff. So it affected them in a positive way. And we were able to do more deals than in regular times, actually. So I am so happy to be here to learn from you guys. And also, you know, I love Stiles Love. They are amazing. I always get very good feedback from my clients. I was actually waiting for a time to tell you, Mark, but I'm so glad that I met you guys, and I know that we are in good hands. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That was nice. Actually, if you could mute, I think I'm feedback. There you go. That very nice. Thank you. I didn't ask Esin to do that either, but Esin has been in class a bunch of times and adds a tremendous amount of value because a lot of her investor money is from overseas. So that should be interesting conversation. I'm wondering, Esin, if many of those investors are using mortgage leveraged money, or if they're all cash for the most part.
So some of my clients try to get a mortgage, and it's been really tough because I had so much trouble finding a mortgage company that specializes in international clients and understand their position. It's so difficult. They need to have some experience on it. And when I ask you, do you have experience? They know the procedures, but they didn't do a lot of deals. So I wasn't able to locate a loan officers that specialize in this kind of situation. So if you have any referrals, I would be happy to have it. I recently, actually, I had a client. They have businesses in Russia, in Turkey, and they are financially very strong. I have the bank statements, I have their assets and everything. And when we start to pre-approval process here, they basically give them like 7% rate, which is ridiculous. So they didn't want to take it, obviously. So most of them are cash because there is no way of getting this kind of rate and making them go forward with this deal, basically.
So Esin is also in the city. So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversations with the differences between the city and the suburbs. But Kate Healey, welcome back.
Hey, Mark Stiles, Kate Healey, Success Real Estate in Marshfield and out of the Braintree office. And I guess my COVID positive moment would be that my son got out of the Army and moved back home with me. And I think if it wasn't for COVID, he would have found himself a place on his own. So I'm just thrilled to be having dinner with him every single night. And my daughter got engaged. I'm able to enjoy every little moment with her. So between fittings and tastings and all of that, which is great. So that's just my positive on this terrible pandemic that we're, I think, gonna see again surge, but some things
we're
are
gonna figure all that. We'll figure all that part out, but we're gonna keep it really positive, and that's why we like to start the meetings with the positive.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. So there's a lot of obviously a lot of negatives going on, you know, out there, and that's kind of why we're teaching this class, and that's why, you know, I started on a positive because it's going to talk about a lot of distress and a lot of heartache, and it's hard, really hard. What I want everyone to do though is everyone is muted. Thank you. If you have a question, just simply unmute because I can see everybody, and that's why we try to keep these really small. But I can see you, so if you have a question, just simply unmute and I'll know to break what I'm doing. So market, great. Market is tremendous, thriving, pandemic. Go ahead.
Are you letting Mary Thomas off the hook?
No, she's gonna unmute too when she has a question.
No, he wants to know what
right.
my positive COVID moment is.
Yes,
Okay.
I want to know,
Mary,
Mary, who you are, where you are, what
Okay.
you're interested
You
in.
changed your name. That's good. That's a positive.
Yeah, so my name is Sue Walker. If I brush my hair in the next 20 minutes, you'll see me, but I can't right now. I'm up in my second home up in Vermont, spending a few days up here doing some things, but I own a home up here and we rent it out a lot. It's called Cedar Walk at Killington, if you care to look it up on Airbnb. And I am really into real estate. I want to have other investment properties. I've mastered the art of the short-term rental market, and I want to learn to capitalize on it better. I'm managing other properties up here too, which is a lot of fun for me. And I would say my positive COVID moment is that two of them. One is I live with a husband who loves to cook, and he has mastered the art of baking rustic Italian breads, which is not good for my ass, but it is very good for the oven. And I really enjoy, he's gotten really, really good at it. And the second COVID positive moment for me is my real job is that I work in vaccines. I've been in the pharma industry for 23 years, and my company is going after a vaccine for COVID. And I'm hoping that I will have a chance to help people stay healthy moving forward. Thank you.
Cool. So Sue, Mary, when you have a question, just unmute and we'll know. And if you've got to do stuff and all that, and you just don't have questions because you're fascinated by the conversation, then that's cool too. But I can't wait.
Thanks, everyone.
I can't wait to hear those questions.
Hi, Jenny.
All right. So what are we doing? We are in a frenzy, right? We're in an absolute frenzy. Homes are being sold for above asking. And we're talking about short sales. Like, why would we do that? Why would we talk about short sales when everything is so great? And the reality of it is because you all know, you're all professionals, you're all in this as a career-minded person, and you're not looking at just this month. You're not looking at, this quarter. You're looking at 12 months. You're looking at 18 months. You're looking at 24 months. What are the transactions going to look like then, right? Economy was booming before COVID. Everything was great, but people were still questioning it. We started teaching this in the school, in last year, because it was just time for the market to shift, right? Markets shift in cycles, but there wasn't a reason. So it was kind of premature to be educating about it. And some may say we're premature here. I don't think so. But we seemed premature, but just by the cycle of things, it was due for another market correction at least. Now we have a very different scenario, right? COVID came in. If it was quick, in, hit, out, very different scenario, right? We talked a lot on the Facebook page while this was happening about this V effect, right? So what? It hits and we go back the other way and it's like nothing ever happened. That would have been April, right? So if we were able to just hit bottom in April and like have a vaccine and everything's great, then it would be a true V. But this sprint became a marathon into the summer, and now we're into the fall. And a lot of people feel like it's an absolute ultra marathon. I'm one of them, but I'm in shape. I'm ready for this long run, and I'm ready to pivot. I'm ready to identify trends and make moves and hire people and do what is going to come, right? So what's going to come? The only way we can possibly understand what is to come is to understand history and what has happened. What has happened in these different markets that have shifted to volatility, right? And then I'm hoping to talk about some of the things that we're seeing in the marketplace today, which also are indicators of trends and what is to come. I can go back to 1995. 1995 is when we were starting to pull out of the savings and loan crisis. 1988, 89, when the savings and loans started to crumble and there was a bottom to the market and there was a very, very challenging real estate market. I was in school, but when I came out of school in 95, it was cleaning up. A very similar era would be compared to 2013. right? It was cleaning up, finishing up. We were piecing together assignments of receiverships. If anyone remembers, the savings and loans went into receivership. So there was FDIC assignments and puzzles, what we were trying to put together. We had stories of people whose mortgages got lost, completely lost, and they didn't pay for 10 years. And investors were tracking down those old loans and trying to figure out who the owner was so they could buy them and foreclose and take the property that way. Really interesting strategy, right? So I was working with some REO real estate brokers. I don't know if you remember the Hemingways out of Quincy. Dick and Judy Hemingway had the market of REOs back then. A friend of mine introduced me to them from law school, who was working in a service provider, a servicing company that handled the foreclosures and evictions. And he was in Texas and introduced me to their relationship in Massachusetts. So we were able to learn a little bit about it as it was coming out of, a bad place. So that's my first memory of it, is 96, 97, 98. But then there was the real estate boom. So I got involved in that part of the market, right? So now we're doing new purchase money, refinance, all that. 2003, it was crazy. Yeah, I'm showing my age. Not sure who was with me in that era, but I know some of us were there. Crazy 04, 05. And then there was this market called the subprime market, right? Very different than COVID. Very similar to the savings and loans, though. So history was repeating itself there while delivering these horrible loans for profiteers somewhere else, right? Wall Street, chopping these up, putting them in collateralized bonds. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but the more they did, the more profit they would receive, right? So they were pushing loans to people that shouldn't have had them, right? So that's an unsustainable business model, which eventually will collapse, and it did. We started to see those collapse in 06, 07, but yet the retail market of residential real estate agents was thriving in 06 and 07, thriving, as were we, but we were seeing what was happening. The subprime companies were starting to go out of business in 06, late 06, as early as summer 06. They stopped funding a lot of these companies because Wall Street was way ahead of Main Street, right? So they were seeing what was happening. They didn't have buyers for these anymore. They were defaulting, trickle down slowly to the retail market, right? So as these companies were starting to go out of business, we were starting to see, okay, this has a bad ending. This is not going to end well. In 07, we started to see foreclosures on the rise, but what these foreclosures were virtually fraud-based loans, right? So in 05, 06, there were people on the street lending money to people who absolutely did not deserve to get them, and sometimes were fake. Fake human beings were brought into closings. They were actually human beings, but they were fake borrowers, brought into closings to sign on behalf of somebody else who facilitated the fraud. Sometimes what would happen is they would actually change the deed on the way to the registry of deeds so that they would actually get money at the closing. So 05, 06, they're buying a 3-family for $280,000, but it's $380,000 with a mortgage of $340,000, and they walk away with $60,000. Not enough people went to jail. Trust me, not enough people went to jail. Very different than COVID. Okay. Very different than COVID. But the effects were global, right? This subprime fraud took down the entire global economy. I don't think anybody can deny it. 2008, 2009, 2010 suffered tremendously because of this practice of fraud. And as we started to see these subprime mortgage companies going out of business in 06 and 07, we sat back and said, what is the future? Like, how does this all shake out? Like, values are clearly going to go down. These mortgages are going up because they're fraudulent. They have high values if there's any equity. And in some cases, as I mentioned, there's negative equity because of the fraud. 07, those were pretty much foreclosed on. Nobody challenged them. They weren't there. They didn't even know they owned it. It foreclosed, and it just was a swift, clean investor frenzy, right? So that's the second part of the class. The investors sought these opportunities. They saw what was happening. They were buying them at foreclosure. What they did with them is what they did with them based on their discipline. But what about all of the other ones? What about all of the people who did these no-doc loans, 100% financing, thought it was a great idea, negative amortization? I was in a bar outside of Fenway Park talking to a loan officer who was saying quite brazenly, I can do an $800,000 loan and tell the consumer that the payment is only $1,800 a month. And I was like, should you be saying it that way? Like, that seems really deceptive. Yeah, but I'm killing it. The 4 points on the backside. And I was like, don't send me any of those deals, please. Pretty please. So they were making 4% and pitching to the consumer, don't worry about it. This is your payment. I don't know why you would think it would be $4,000. It's $1,600. So that interest was they were called pay option arms. You had 4 choices. You could pay a 15-year note, which was like $8,000. You could pay a 30-year regular amortized, which was $6,000. You could pay interest only, which is $4,000, or you could pay less than what the interest was due and pay $1,800. But that $3,400 or $3,300, that's going to go to the back end of the loan. So the loan amount is actually going to increase if you choose to pick this option, pick a pay option arms. Interesting product. I actually used one on a investment flip, and it was great. It worked great for me because I was in a cash flow situation. I wanted to flip a property. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on mortgage debt. I certainly didn't want to get hard money. Used this because it was available, told the truth. They gave it to me, which was still fascinating. Paid it off and everything was great. But I'm not the person who was told by the person in the bar that you could buy this $1 million house, $850,000 mortgage, pay $1,200 a month and you'll be all set, right? That comes to roost. And it did. So as I'm sitting there getting texts on my BlackBerry while on a long weekend, the first getaway had gotten in 7 years probably because of the market, and I'm getting these pings: do not accept funding from I can't even remember any of their names because we never did business with any of them. Long Beach Mortgage, AmeriQuest, Town and Country, Taylor Bean and Whitaker. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, it wasn't fun, but it was kind of fun spectator sport. There was like a mortgage, remember the website, Spheros, mortgageimplode.com? It was like it was a daily tracker that you could go online and follow who was blowing up, when and why, and who the names of the owners of the company was. It was really, really early internet, fascinating stuff. But I'm getting these on my BlackBerry and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This is going to be bad. There's going to be attorneys who are gunslingers, who clearly are gunslingers because they're taking these deals, and they're going to forget to look and see if they got funded today. And they're going to go on record and they're not going to get funded, and they're going to be bummed out that they went on record and didn't get funded because they're going to send out a bunch of checks. the money's not going to be there and they're going to bounce and they're going to go out of business. It did happen to people, but what else is going to happen, right? These mortgages are bad. Bad things get exposed and bad things happen, right? So I went back into my memory bank to another friend of mine who I've known for 30 years, who bought a house in 2004. He bought it out in Worcester County. And when he was buying it, he was buying it for $350,000. And I looked at the title exam and it was clear that there was mortgages in excess of $400,000. And I'm like, buddy, we're not gonna be able to close. Like, I don't know why this guy is selling it for what he's selling it for. He doesn't have enough money unless he's gonna write a check. So we asked the seller, are you gonna write a check at closing? Because, you know, I mean, we don't have the final payoffs, but it doesn't look good for you. And he gave me a letter. He sent me a letter from the mortgage company of the second bank that said, we will accept whatever's left and give you a release of the mortgage. You know, don't worry about it. We'll get out of the way and clear title. And I was like, what? You're going to take less than what you're owed? Huh. Let my title insurance company see this. So I sent the letter to them, because when we don't know the answer, of which we do not know all the answers, a lot of them, but not all of them, we send it to our title insurance company, because the title insurance company ultimately is the one who's going to make the call whether they're going to insure it or not. So we make a lot of those calls independently because we know that they would, so we're not going to waste their time. But on the ones that we're not sure, we sent it. And what did that person say? I remember these. People were doing these in the savings and loan meltdown. Wow, I haven't seen one of these in like 15 years. I'm like, interesting. Well, I guess it wasn't 15 years even back then, but how quickly people forget, right? So I put that in my memory bank. And then in 2006, I said to myself, this is the only way out of this, is these so-called short sales. It's the only way to manage through this disruption that's about to happen, which could be colossal, actually. And it totally was. And we were first in market talking about it. People were thinking I was crazy, just like they are now, but I'm good with it. And we were talking to real estate offices to a point where it was like, has anyone ever heard of a short sale? Nobody in the room had heard of a short sale. And then it turned out, you know, can you please come talk to my people? I'm doing a thing and someone got a short sale and nobody knows what they're talking about. And then I was asked to go to a big event at the Plymouth and South Shore realtors. And then I found out I thought I was going to an office and it was really a recruiting thing for KW. There was like 500 people there. It was pretty funny, but it was good. And it got my name out in the short sale world, which at the time was fine because first in market usually wins. And they were giving the house away in the beginning. That's not going to happen now, but those loans, the owners of those loans wanted to get rid of those before the attorney general caught up to them. I mean, it was that bad. So some of them, Wells Fargo, believe this, if you've ever done a short sale, you know how painful and long and brutal the process can be. Wells Fargo was asking when we were dealing, they took over World Savings Bank, which did a lot of those pay option arms we talked about, who became Wachovia, and then Wells Fargo took them. When they had those loans in front of them, all they asked for was a settlement sheet and a purchase and sale agreement. That is it. And you know what a short sale is like now, what they ask for. I mean, they asked for blood, firstborn, everything, right? They just wanted to do them quick. So we were doing these really fast, really efficiently, and was making a tremendous profit. And as the market started to mature, short sale market, that is, the retail market started to slow down to a point of virtually stopping. I would say in 2009, there was no deals. It was a frozen market. And unless you were working with either someone in distress or an investor, then you weren't doing business. There wasn't a lot of new transactions happening. 09 led to 10. 10 was similar, but then we started to come out of it. 11, we're fully coming out of it. And that's when we exited short sales, was 2011, because there was an influx of a lot of people doing them, which drove the prices down, and we weren't able to capture a fee that actually made sense for us to be involved in it. So we exited and just pushed back hard on the retail marketing end of it, and representing folks that we represent now. But why do I think it's going to come back again? And do I think it's going to happen everywhere? Unequivocally, no. I will say that 10 times over. This will be so very market specific this time. It will absolutely depend on what market you're in as to what the transactions will look like, right? Last time, there was no hiding from it. There was no hiding from it. It was enormous. The global economy took, the subprime market took down the entire global economy. This time I was saying that the residential real estate market could keep us together, and they did, right? Through COVID, they did. Residential real estate kept it together, right? How many jobs can you name from one real estate transaction? 15. You've got the attorney, you've got the agent, you've got the support, you've got the appraiser, you've got the inspector, you've got the lender, you've got the support, you've got Home Depot, you've got electrician, you've got plumber, you've got landscaper, you've got jobs if the market keeps churning, right? And the market kept churning. But what is happening that people aren't really talking about is there's a lot of forbearance, right? There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of hurt. Kate started to talk about that at the beginning, like people are feeling it bad. And when people feel bad, it's usually because of finances. The stressor is usually finances. That stressor then leads into the other stress of the relationships, right? So there's bound to be a tremendous amount of divorces that are going to come out of COVID, whether it's chicken and the egg of finances to divorce, or divorce leads to finances, right? Because most people can't afford to get divorced. That's a reality. Most couples in America can't split in half and still be okay. So then there's a financial scenario going on there. So one of the things I want to talk about within the short sale curriculum, right? How do you do a short sale? That's really the curriculum. And it's really hard, but it's really easy. It's working with somebody that you care about and showing them that you care about them and helping them through a really challenging time. But the paperwork is brutal. And I'll talk about what we have for a solution with that. But it's painful. But what you need to know and understand is two things. That the bank, and we're going to call them the bank, even though they're the service provider, they're the ones who's managing the money for the owner of the loan. We're just going to call it the bank for now. Wants two things. One, that they're getting fair market value for the home. Maybe they lent too much money, right? What is a short sale? It's when the mortgage debt exceeds the value of the property. So it's their problem now. How are they going to deal with it, right? They lent the money. Yeah, maybe they were deceived or misrepresented, but here we are now with debt that exceeds what the fair market value is. So what's the fair market value? Don't rip me off. Don't steal from me. Do not bring in an offer well below market value, right? But what's market value in a distressed property? Spiros will talk about that with respect to getting into thinking of the mind of an investor, is very different than a not distressed property, right? So what we have to do is explain to the bank, this is the value, and this is why it's the value. And going into granular detail of how to do that is where the professionals actually come. So to be compassionate and to represent somebody in distress, you don't necessarily have to do all of that work, because there are people that will partner with you to do that. But you have to be empathetic and compassionate and willing to have the tissues and the chocolates waiting for those people to just melt down and lie on your therapeutic couch, right? Because that's the reality of a distressed scenario, okay? But in a model where there is a 3-party agreement, where there's a listing agent who manages that relationship is very important. That one-on-one relationship between the listing agent and the consumer who's in distress is the most important. And then there's a buyer agent who finds a buyer, and there needs to be some way of managing that buyer. So you have a buyer agent who understands the nature of a short sale and will manage that buyer. But then there's a third intermediary that stays and does the work and communicates back to both of those parties. And that can be done through another agency, right? So we're calling it the 222 right now, right? There's 6% always requested in a short sale, 2% goes to the listing agent, 2% goes to the buyer's agent, 2% goes to the operation that will help facilitate the short sale in a professional and meaningful, effective way. So then there's the buyer's agents, which we're going to talk about as we get into the real estate investors. The other thing that the bank, the service company, is going to want to know is what happened. Why can't you just wait it out, right? One of my real estate investor clients always tells me, Mark, the beauty of real estate is if you make a mistake, time will heal that ultimately. So the bank is going to say, well, you know what? Shame on you. You shouldn't have done this. You have to wait it out and pay me my money. Show me that you can't. Show me what your hardship is. And then we'll agree to let you do this deal. So buyer comes in and says, I'm willing to pay $280,000 for that house that's all overgrown and sad and worn down, but I owe $360,000 in net after commission. That's a lot of money that the bank is going to have to swallow. Okay, well, let's send it to the agency to deal with it in a professional, methodical way, and we'll see what happens. So there's a hardship package that goes along with that. So if you wanted to be involved in do-it-yourself short sales, you would have to submit a package that includes the reason why, the hardship package, your current income, your current tax returns, what's going on. Just think about it from the perspective of the bank. When you signed this loan application till today, what happened? COVID happened. And that's going to explain a lot of hardships, because there are a lot of hardships coming out of COVID, right? What if you own 7 restaurants right now? You know, what if you owned a hotel, a family hotel right now? Mary, you got raised your hand. Come on in.
Hey, thank you. Okay, so my question is, let's say you are underwater and you do have official hardship. Do you have to file personal bankruptcy in order to have a short sale on your property? No.
No, great question though.
Thank you, Mark.
From a brand new real estate investor. And just so you know, I'm not giving legal advice here. I'm giving legal information, and I'm teaching continuing ed for real estate. But no, in my experience in doing short sales, that would actually hinder the short sale process more than help. And here's why, and it's a great question. And it's another great place to be seeking out real estate deals is the bankruptcy court. But it slows everything down, because now the court has to approve everything in addition to the lender approving. Sometimes it's a strategy, if the lender is not cooperating, to then bring them into a bankruptcy and have, you know, the judge explain to them the realities of things. But no, one of the things when we were dealing with people is don't file bankruptcy, because you have to look as bad as possible. And if you're on the fringe of bankruptcy, you look as bad as possible. If you've come out of bankruptcy, you've cleaned your slate, right? So you actually have the ability. If you're going to file bankruptcy, you would want to do it after doing the short sale, not before. But that's a great question. Which brings me back to the hardship package and what you have, right? So the bank's going to say, okay, well, let's look at your bank statement. You have this much money that comes in every month, this much money that goes out. Is there room to make a payment for us? And what you're going to do is you're going to break down a budget. And what we used to do when we were doing a tremendous amount of these, which if you haven't figured out, I'm probably going to be the pilot of that other entity, the 222. So we're going to have another entity using my license to do and facilitate short sales again in the markets that they come to, which they're not going to be in every market. And I'm going to explain why in a second. But what we used to like to do with the budget is we would use the IRS form. The IRS, if you go online and you're negotiating with the IRS, they give you a form budget that you can use and fill out. And it's really thorough and encompassing. I mean, hairdresser is on there, you know, not just the electrician, I mean, the electric bill and the gas bill, but there's a tremendous amount on there. So you fill that all out and make that part of the package. So there's what's called a hardship package that ultimately every bank will require. And it's going to include those two things, you and the property. We need to approve both. The property has to make sense on the value, and you have to prove to us that you can't do it any other way. And then we'll agree to do it. But the nice thing about that budget, when we would put it in, and we never ever said that this was a fact, but maybe they've got issues with the IRS. Right? Maybe the IRS is asking them for money too, and they've already done this budget. Oh goodness, we better hurry up and get this done for them. So you have the hardship package, then you wait and you wait. And again, in 07 and 08, when I had 15 countrywide files, and I would pick up the phone and I'd dial Donna's extension at 214, we would go through every single file one at a time. Oh, this one's ready to go. Yep, I need this on that one. Oh, this is going to be great. We'll probably approve this one tomorrow. It was very different than it was in 2010, 11, once there was an influx in the market and a surplus of short sales. And they finally figured out what loss mitigation was. It's a department to mitigate the loss. Right? We are going to lose money on this loan. How do we minimize it as much as we can? How do we mitigate it as much as we can? So they crammed down fees. They started to actually cram down on real estate commissions if they could, but there was a lot of federal guidelines that didn't allow them to do that. And you now have to upload into their system. You have to wait. You have to do exactly what they say, and the box that they check, or that you won't move forward and get a green button versus a red button. And you have to call and you have to check in and you have to continue to do that. And that's one of the struggles that a lot of agents have, because listen, I just want to sell. I want to keep going and help people. What I'll say right now here at 10:50 a.m. on October 21st, 2020 is get to those people now. Get to them now, because the short sale is not in December. Right? I don't care how long they've been doing forbearance, right? The government allowed 6 months, government allows a year. A year of forbearing your mortgage is going to have a hugely negative effect to your mortgage value. But maybe they can hang on. Maybe they can continue to hang on a little bit longer. But if you're there now, when they are in trouble, maybe you can get them out before it's a short sale, right? 12 months from now, 18 months from now, again, market specific. And here's what I'll say about that. COVID has taught us one thing, as Mary Sue Walker Thomas is in Vermont, is people are going to live where they want to, not where they need to. So people are going to exit certain markets in exchange for markets of destination type living, right? So for example, the South Shore of Boston, I don't think is going to have a major hit based on COVID, because people are actually going to want to come here. They may want to leave the city, Esin, sorry to say, because of COVID, but they may want to come closer to the water. They want to have more land. They want to be near trails that they can walk their dog on. So they're going to come to certain locations that fill that need. And then there are markets that really got hurt, right? The tertiary markets that are, people are going to try to leave, but maybe they can't because they can't find another place that they can afford. But those are the markets that are going to get hurt badly anyway. Those are always the markets that are last to climb out, but first to crumble down. And those markets are going to have transactions. So again, what we're talking about as a real estate agent who is going to move into, planning for next year and the year after is, where are my clients going to come from? Right? Do I want to get into this distressed compassionate? Do I want to be working with real estate investors? So where the market is will depend. I mean, real estate, the one thing that COVID won't change is it's all about location, location, location. Do I need to be in the city so that I can walk to work now? The answer is no, right? Do I need to commute into the city anymore? No. So where do I want to go if I don't have to do that, right? And I like to talk about people as inventory and not the actual real estate as inventory. And we need to just shift through inventory, right? So there are certain people who are going to be in these sought after locales, right? South Shore, I'm biased, but it is a beautiful part of the country. And people are going to seek going to locales like that. But there are people there that may not know it yet, but maybe they can't afford to be there anymore. Or maybe they're about to not be able to afford to be there anymore. So what we want to do is funnel that inventory through. I know it sounds inhumane, but if you think of it as the people and not the real estate, right? The real estate's not going anywhere, right? We're just borrowing real estate when we buy it. We're just using it for the time that we own it, right? There should be no emotional attachment to it. We're here. Maybe it'll make a profit, maybe it won't, but it's the people that we need to shift, right? So if they're coming out of the city, where are they going to go, right? They're going to go to the homes of the people who no longer should be there anymore, right? Awful, sounds terrible. People would criticize me if they took that out of context. But if you can let them know that before it's too late and the market is still in a frenzy, you're opening up inventory. And people who are struggling, and it's usually your close friends and family when you have those conversations, right? Most, tertiary friendships aren't going to share with you unless they're your trusted clients, right?
Can I jump in with two different things, Mark? So, having people in distress needing to sell their homes is fine, but those people still need to live somewhere.
Right.
And it's an opportunity for an investor to purchase that property and then potentially provide either those same people or some other people a place to live. Everyone still needs to live somewhere. So it's just sort of a reallocation of how the ownership. So instead of being an owner, maybe you're a renter for a little while. And then also I saw an article last night in, I think it's boston.com, talking about the city inventory. And it's noted that condo prices in the Seaport and Back Bay, so Seaport prices are down 35% and Back Bay is down 21 or 22%. But places like JP in West Roxbury and Roslindale, prices are up 13%. And the conclusion of the article was people are looking for properties where you don't have to share a door with somebody else and that has outside space. So it's not like everyone is fleeing the city altogether, but they are looking for their own personal space. So if you're in a building with a shared elevator, shared door, maybe not so attractive right now, but if you've got your own door and maybe a little piece of backyard, then those prices are still rising.
Cool. That's great segue into the next hour, which is we're going to focus on real estate investors and thinking like a real estate investor. And there's Spiros. Spiros, I'm going to ask you to keep your microphone unmuted for the rest of the class so that we can bing and bang on the real estate investor piece.
I can sing. I don't sing. I'm kidding.
Opposito, hang on, let me quiet him down.
Kate, how long have you been in real estate? Can I ask? Your microphone. Microphone.
Hi, since 2004.
Cool. Very good.
So I experienced that good market and then the
Crash.
crazy short sale. Yeah.
Good timing. But then
Yeah,
you got
but I
the
do
boom, you got
remember
the
in the
last
very
boom of the last
beginning.
10 years.
Yeah, I do remember in the very beginning though with the short sales with the them trying to really cut back on the commission, especially if you had both sides, if you had a buyer and a seller.
Yeah.
So did you do any of them, Kate?
Yeah.
You did? Did you do them yourself?
Yes.
Would you do them again?
I would. Yeah. I mean, I think it's inevitable. It's I don't know, with all these landlords that are going to be looking now for rent, that's up. I don't know if there's going to be an extension with that. I don't know.
How about you, Esin? How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 4 years now in Boston, but I'm originally from Turkey. So I've been into real estate for maybe 5-6 years in Turkey as well with the flip and renovation side. So
Okay. If you're from Turkey and I'm Greek, then we really can't talk to each other and help each other.
No, it's not. I don't believe that, sir. No, I have a lot of Greek friends and I've been to Greece many times. I love everything about it. So
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
yes.
Yo, Israel represented too here.
Here you go. Such a strong team here.
Are we going to get to see your inquisitive questions on the second half, Mary Sue?
We'll see. I'm interested.
I'm calling you Mary Sue from now on forever and ever.
All right.
Yeah, I already assumed that. I'm going to be Mrs. Thomas now. For the rest
I like
of my
that.
life.
Mary Sue Walker Thomas.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
all
cool.
right. So one of the reasons that I brought Spiros in is because he's teaching this on a regular basis now. So we get the benefit of sharing his knowledge, which he's always willing to share with us. But what I want to talk about is when you start to see a shifting market, right? What should you be thinking about? What are your investors saying, right? If you're working with investors right now, which we work with a lot of them, they're saying, Mark, where are the deals? Where are the deals? And my response is, be patient. Be patient because they are a-coming. Now, can we make it so that it doesn't do this again? Right? We've got this market going crazy, everything's great. And then we tip the scales completely. Can we kind of do one of these? And that's where I was kind of talking about at the end, where if you can be proactive and you can find these people who are saying, you know what, I was going to retire in 5 years, but COVID made me realize I'm going to just kind of retire now and go to Carolina now. Or I'm going to quasi-retire and go live in Big Sky, Montana and remote consult in, because there are plenty of people that want to move into their property, right? So it's the inventory flow of the people that I keep referring back to. Is the property stands still. It's just the people that flow through. So how do we find those people now before it's too late, right? So some of them are going to wait, just like they always do, put their head in the sand and wait for it to get better. And oftentimes it gets very, very, very much worse. And then it's too late. And then we're talking about the curriculum that you learned about, which you can do yourself if you choose to, or you can work with a fine, upstanding company that will share the workload and commissions with you. But Spiros, like, how would an investor who's not accepting the be patient, there are no deals out there yet conversation and say, well, I'm going to dismiss that and I'm going to go here first? Where do you go?
That's a great question. And just for a couple of things, can I just close a couple of loops that were in my head from the last session?
Yeah. I told you to leave your mic unmuted.
Well, no, I don't want to I don't know. I don't know if you're going to finish it. These are just thoughts. That's what I'm sitting here writing down notes. I got a page full of notes, and I just want to share this with those of you on the call, because as Mark said, I got licensed initially. So I grew up here in Massachusetts, went to UMass with Mark. That's how I know him. We pledged. I've known him for 31 years now.
Did we make out back then around 1988 at UMass?
What'd you say?
Sue was there too.
You were?
Yeah.
Dance hall, baby, and then
You
we
look
lived
familiar.
in Puffin Village, all that good stuff.
Then.
But
okay, let's do that one offline. Okay.
Yes, I agree with you. Sorry. So we did. So then I graduated in '92, and I worked a couple of years in Boston. Do my degrees in finance, and then I moved to Colorado. So I got my real estate license in Colorado in '96. Got my Massachusetts broker's license in 2000. So I worked for RE/MAX starting out 2003. My wife and I started our own real estate brokerage in Colorado and Massachusetts. And we're very much like Mark. We're a boutique. We're not looking to dominate the marketplace. We want to work with experienced agents and really serve our clients. And what I've changed, 2010, when the market melted down, my wife and I were personally impacted by that. We had 10 houses under our control that we owned throughout multiple parts of the country. We had a house in Whistler, British Columbia as well. And we lost 7 of them, and a couple of the foreclosure. We had to do short sales. It was just a miserable time. And what I said was, the only people buying, I wanted to keep my agents eating. And I realized the only people buying real estate at that point in 2010, 2011, 2012 were investors. And so I went out to learn, what do investors need? What are investors looking for? So I can supply them the inventory, because I know if I give them the right deal, they're going to buy it. And just on the short sale side of it, a couple of things for you, for those of you that don't know, if you there's a book, but also the movie called The Big Short. If you guys haven't watched it, watch it. It talks all about what Mark went through and what people like myself and people in this country went through emotionally when the world was crashing around them. I agree, COVID is very, very different. But what I'll tell you is that the right investor makes every single marketplace, not just real estate. If there's no investors in the stock market, is the stock market going to go up or down? It's going to go down. If there's no investors, meaning if people don't want to take trips and go on cruises, how's the travel industry going to do? Down. If people don't want to invest in retail and buy new clothes, down. So investors are always on the forefront of any type of market, either stability and then explosion. So that's where my heart is. How can we serve investors? But there's the right investors, because there's a lot of them. Mark said they go to a $1,500 weekend class and then they think they're a real estate investor. I'm going to tell you right now, it's even worse than that. What they do is they binge watch with their significant other on Saturday night, HGTV, and they're all hopped up at 11 o'clock at night. They got popcorn on their thing, and they're like, honey, this is amazing. Why don't we flip houses? This is so easy. It's so easy. Look, it can't be that difficult. She's wearing heels in the picture, in the movie, in the show. Like, it's not that. It's a half hour, they're done. And those are the people it's not that we don't want to serve them. I don't necessarily want to work with them right now. That's what I want to teach you guys. But I'm telling you, I'm going to blow your mind right now with the statistics. So I'm going to ask, Aaron, Esin, I'm sorry, you're probably mostly in what, Suffolk County?
Middlesex a little bit.
Middlesex too, okay. Kate, what market are you mostly in?
Norfolk and Plymouth. County.
Okay, Norfolk and Plymouth. So just give me a second. I'm going to pull up some statistics, and I'm going to blow your mind right now. So I'm going to go to my computer. Right now in Suffolk County, there are 2,228 homes that are upside down.
Where'd you pull that up?
I'll tell you in a second.
I need that. I bet Mary Sue would want that too.
In Norfolk County,
Mary Sue is all over that list.
in Norfolk County, there's only 3,575.
Only.
Middlesex, and then I'll do Plymouth, and Middlesex only has 8,274.
Can you look up other states as well?
I can look up the whole country with this data. So just give me, and then we said what, Plymouth? $4,046. Okay, so any market move, any strategic investor is going to use data. So the first thing you're going to know if they are an experienced investor is if they can give you information on the market that lines up with the information and the data that you know. Now, most of that information can come from our MLS. So I use multiple sources, and you have to pay for these leads. So that's what, but if you go to two of the biggest data providers in the country are ListSource, ListSource, and Atom Data, like the little ATOM data, DATA. And so you can go to those sites and they'll charge you per lead if you download the leads. But you can search counties, you can search upside down, you can search absentee, you can search vacant, foreclosures, divorce, credits, if you want to do 30, 60, 90-day lates on credits. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this is where investors are going. This is how investors get the inventory that, as I'll put my realtor hat on, we don't get to the MLS. Most foreclosures don't go to the MLS. A lot of divorces don't go to the MLS. Bankruptcies don't go to the MLS, and a lot of short sales don't go to the MLS. Here's why what Mark's teaching is so important. Every single short sale needs a specific person involved in the transaction representing the seller. Who do you think that is? Ladies?
Yes.
They need realtors. Every short sale to get approved by a bank is going to need to be listed by a realtor. So if you know how to speak investor, speak short sale, you can start communicating with investors. The other thing about short sales is that most people, most agents think of it like, well, I mean, listen, they bought their house 6 years ago. They've got to have a couple $100,000 in equity. Well, you know what? You're right. They probably do have a couple $100,000 in equity on the first mortgage. Maybe they took out a second mortgage. Maybe they have kids that are going to school. Or Mark just made a great point. And I want to put some salt on it to taste a little better. Was saying that what about the owner that has 7 restaurants? Do you think there's any people out there right now that are cross-collateralizing their equity in their house in order to keep their businesses alive? So it's not going to come from people having these loans. It's good, like bad loans. It's going to be coming from people trying to dig themselves out of this mess, and they're not able to get themselves out of this mess. And just from my own experience, again, 24 years, was my 25th year now in real estate. I know most people, even though I have a great relationship with them, most people still struggle to talk to me first about their financial issues. They would rather talk to a complete stranger who sent them a postcard and sent them a voicemail, and they went to their website and they gave them their information because they feel embarrassed about talking to us as realtors or us as friends or us as family. And why do I know that? Because the only 2 people that knew about the financial struggles that my wife and I went through from 2008 to 2011 were my mother and my father-in-law. because we needed to borrow money from them. Mark didn't even know this stuff. I didn't share this stuff with my friends. I was embarrassed. I've been in real estate for 13 years. How could I be facing foreclosure? How could these loans be upside down? Well, I had option arms. I thought I understood it. How could I be going out? How could we go in bankruptcy? I thought the restaurant was going to come back. I thought COVID was only going to be for 2 months and the PPP loans were going to be enough to carry. By the way, there's another one. PPP loans. You don't know how many people have not done that correctly, where they're going to actually have to pay the loan back. They were marketed that you're not going to have to pay them back, but if they didn't follow the guidelines, if they didn't follow the ratios, more importantly, if they didn't invest in an accountant that knew exactly how to do the thing correctly, they're going to have to be paying these PPP loans. And guess what? They're going to come after assets if they're not paying these PPP loans, even if their business is out of business. So I just kind of wanted to say that short sales is not just looking at somebody who bought a house who's upside down. It's looking at people moving forward that are still going to be struggling, and they decided to leverage themselves with their house and their equity, and it didn't work for them. And it comes up fast. Fast as 3 months, 6 months, that this accelerates to them. I love Mark because he's always right. And this is what my industry, both teaching investors and teaching agents, is that we always put people above profits. That the relationship is always more important to me than making money. Meaning, I'm not going to, if as an investor, I'm not going to buy a bad deal if I'm not going to make money. But maybe they want more money than I can pay for it. Then I'm going to refer them to one of my agents and say, why don't you list it on the MLS? It's still a good market. So I wanted to share that stuff with you because when you start on market, I'm sorry if you want to add something.
No, I want to transition that part of investor short sale, but keep going and I'll remember what I was going to do.
Okay. Well, I just want to transition to investors because I mean, the point is that investors right now, because I'm doing it, I invest in multiple markets. I'm in South Florida, I'm in Ohio, I'm in Colorado, I'm in California. I'm in, I said Florida, and I'm also obviously up here in Massachusetts. And so I know how to do all the guerrilla marketing that we call it, that investors do, that most agents don't do. But inventory, if you're worried about inventory, maybe you have a buyer that wants to buy a nice house in, in Newton. Well, you know who has the inventory? The investors. There's investors that have bought houses off the MLS, not when I say off the MLS, I mean not listed on the MLS. They've gone direct to seller, and the market shifted in 2010, 2011. Investors used to be kind of an anomaly in the real estate market, but because of Zillow, because of the internet, and because of the market crash that we had, investors are taking a substantial amount of inventory that used to go on the MLS because that was a traditional way to do it. Now they're taking it in-house themselves, dealing directly with sellers. And then they're putting that inventory back on the market. Now, you have the benefit of working with the right investor in this regard. If you bring an investor a good deal, you can make up to 4 commissions on just that one deal.
How? Because that's one of the obstacles that a lot of real estate agents find themselves in when they're like, well, I'm going to run around and do all this work, find this deal for the investor, and what? I'm not even going to get paid. I'll get the listing if they flip it, but what if they don't? How long is it going to take to create a loyal relationship with them? But you're saying there's 4 deals involved? 4 sides?
As many as 4 commissions. Again, if you're one of the first things I teach investors around the country is the first person you need to have on your team is a local realtor who knows the market.
Right.
Especially, the more inexperienced, the more important that is to get that done. But even the experienced investors they're not going to have every single market. They're not going to have, first of all, have access to the MLS like we do. And I'll share the importance of that in a couple of minutes. But as an investor, if you bring me a deal, I've got my investor hat on now. If you bring me a deal, okay, if it's a listing that you have coming up, a pocket listing, all right, you bring it to me. Well, I have a real estate license. I could get a commission. I could get a referral fee. I don't care about that. I'd rather you get the buyer's fee on it and represent me as the buyer if your seller will allow you to do 2 sides of the transaction. That's awesome. And then on the flip side, if my exit strategy is to rehab it and put it back on the market, I will give you the first opportunity to list the property for me. Now, I'm going to have guidelines because I know how to market properties. I'm going to say, I want to make sure we're, obviously now we got to be COVID compliant. What kind of virtual marketing are we going to be doing? How are we doing stuff on Facebook? Or can we do a live open house? How are we going to structure that? But because where inventory is right now around the market, when I say around the country, in most major markets, New York City's obviously plummeting. LA is seeing some sort of exodus from downtown, but the market in the state is still strong because, like Mark said, people are moving to the suburbs. But what I want to see is what value you're going to bring to me. And if you can meet my needs, then I'm going to give you the listing on that. And then you start marketing that listing. As soon as we put a listing in the MLS, we get that data sheet back that says you have 72 matches for your new listing. And then you reach out to those realtors who have those buyers that are putting those searches in the MLS and see if they want to buy the property. And if you market it correctly, with investors, you can start marketing that property 3-4 weeks before you even put it in the MLS. So people are driving, I know this, maybe you should know this. There are people that are driving around neighborhoods that want to live in a neighborhood or live in a town, and they're hoping to see two things. They're hoping to see either a for sale by owner or a coming soon sign. Because if the for sale sign is already on the sign, on the thing, they know there's probably already multiple offers in. So we can start marketing us as realtors to these marketplaces and to these neighborhoods. I love doing direct mail as well around that. And I can teach you guys how to leverage that, because a lot of buyers in that neighborhood, the people who live there already probably know people who want to live in that neighborhood. Oh, wouldn't it be great if you got to move into our neighborhood? We could walk the dogs together. We could do this, take the kids to school when it's safe to do that.
So two of the things that the investor's looking for is for sale coming soon, but what about long grass, broken windows?
Well, that's the thing. Investors are doing that work for us.
Right.
Now, you could go to ListSource or Atom Data like I shared. This is what investors are doing, the good investors who have invested in marketing and a team and resources. They're going to Atom Data, ListSource, and they're pulling a vacant house list. And they're doing a direct mail to it. They're pulling a list of absentee owners and doing a direct mail, because Esin, you said that, absolutely. There's a lot of renters, landlords right now that can't collect rent, and they're looking to liquidate. And if we can come into them as an agent, as a broker, and say, hey, listen, we can market your property to the right person, whether it might be an individual home buyer that's going to live there, or it might be an investor that will take on the responsibility of the tenant, but we can get you out of there. We can cash out what equity you have left and move you on. By the way, that's another investor. Fix and flip is not the only investor. Buy and hold is an investor, and they need help. They need help. So you can just go after an absentee list. And what I do is I combine them. I call them combo sellers. I put an absentee list with a vacant house. Do you think those people are motivated? They're going to be more motivated than somebody that's living in their house, right? If they're sitting on a piece of property that's just vacant and they don't even live in the state or live in the city, how can we help them get the most out of it? So
and what does that letter say?
So I had to, when I came into the investor world, I bought my first I bought my first investment property back in '97, my rental property, but I was buying it like a realtor. And I don't mean to badmouth us as realtors, but we're trained to tell people to invest in real estate because over time in real estate, it's going to go up, right? Like Mark said, eventually time will heal all the real estate wounds. Well, except in 2008 to 2009, when you didn't leverage it correctly or you didn't buy the right asset. So I had to relearn things. I don't use anything fancy. It's funny. Like I used to joke, when I first started with Remax back in '96, it was like, oh, I got to get a park bench, or I got to get a bus stop bench, and I got to put my face on there, and I got to have this, and I got to be the neighborhood expert. And that's just branding, which is okay. But here's the truth. Most people don't care about us branding. Sellers, buyers, investors, they only care about what's in it for them. If you can remember what's in it for them, what our service provides for them, they don't care that I sold 25 houses over the last 3 months. What they care about is the fact that I sold 25 houses is going to show them that I know the market. And those 25 houses sold for 4% more than the average listing price on the MLS. What that means is my team gets you more money. That's why you want to list with us. So what you want to do is you want to have some sort of unique contribution, what you're bringing to the table. And then however it comes across in marketing is however you want to do it. But what's the value? Each market, each list is going to get a different message. So to a vacant home absentee, I'm going to say, hey, listen, Are you just sitting on your assets? I joke about it. I'll put an ASS $, ETS, and not cashing out when the time is right. And I'll follow up with it. I have systems, again, I have automated voicemails that go out. I have automated text messages that go out to follow up with that. And then people will call back.
And
if it's a divorce,
this goes out as you as real estate investor, or as you as real estate broker?
I do it as a real estate investor.
Got it.
Okay. So I use my team as a real estate investor. Now, if people call in and they're not motivated as an investor, they want more full price, then I will go ahead and my team, because I'm not the one answering the phone, they'll answer the phone and they'll say, you know what, this person wants more full price. Why don't we, we know a couple of great realtors in the area. Why don't we introduce you to them that specialize in that marketplace? And so we give them a couple of realtors that we know. We refer the business out, either somebody in my office or other realtors in different parts of the market, because not everybody in my office specializes in every part of town. It's just not possible.
And you capture.
That's how I do it. But you guys can do it as a service. And this is something where you could start doing on Facebook or Instagram, even YouTube, whatever, however you want to do it. But even just letting your friends and family know that you're aware of the challenges that are coming on down the road. And if they know anybody that might be struggling with that you want to be able to give them a safe place to have a conversation with about them. Because so many times I've heard over the years, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Right.
And the biggest growing up, when I say growing up in the real estate industry, the worst parties I ever attended were the housewarming parties of my friends that were friends of mine, but I didn't sell them the house. You know what I'm talking about? Right? They're like, oh, I forgot you were a realtor. Oh, yeah, $600,000 house, 3%, 18,000. Take it. So start doing something soft like that. Do a weekly market minute or a monthly market minute on your Facebook pages or on your websites, and just let them know, hey, listen, here's what, I had a great training with a real estate attorney and a seasoned investor. Let us know that, listen, if you're struggling in your business or you're struggling in this, that there are options that are available for you. And we'd love to discuss those things to you before you destroy your credit. Did you want to add something? I know you said you wanted to come back.
Before it's too late. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about is to kind of feed back into the short sale conversation and kind of disrupt what we perceive to be the short sale market, right? So the perception is you have a friend, you hear about it at Thanksgiving, you go, you rub their back and you do the listing. Great. Let's talk about you getting with a real estate investor who says, hey, here's 7 properties that I see in Plymouth County that are a problem. Can you go and be the intermediary to facilitate this and get this deal going? Is that a market?
That's a huge market. And that's what I love about, again, I know Kate had said she has done short sales in the past. I don't know, Esin, if you've ever done a short sale. I've obviously done them. And they're a pain in the neck. And what I learned, though, is that success in life is dependent on the team that you surround yourself with. And again, starting out, because there's really no formal education. Once you get your real estate license, they give you the education to get the license, and then there's really no formal education unless you're with a good brokerage that services you and gives you the education and the knowledge and the tools. But I was like, wait a second, I don't have to do this. So in Colorado, we use title companies. Obviously, here in Massachusetts, we use real estate attorney. Either or, title companies or real estate attorneys will have some sort of short sale negotiation or loss mitigation capabilities where they get paid on a success fee. So I think Mark was mentioning this, the 6% commission only gets paid if the short sale happens. Am I wrong, Mark?
No.
Yeah. So you could give Mark 10 short sales and he might only be able to negotiate 2 for a closing, which means he's getting paid on those 2. Those other 8 didn't cost you any time, didn't cost him. He invested the time, didn't cost your investor any time to say, okay, I'm not wasting my time. I know that those 2 got closed. Awesome. We're excited. Happy to pay the 2% commission or fee. And the other ones didn't. And so when you're working with investors, I'm telling you right now, across the board, most realtors do not want to do short sales because they think they have to do the short sale.
Right.
All they have to do is be the relationship broker. That's what really you're doing in the transaction, just like every transaction. I was joking with Mark the other day on the phone that it's weird not doing table closings anymore because we do that in Colorado as well. And I said, over the years, I've had a handful of closings where we had to be in separate rooms because the buyer and seller, or the buyers or the sellers, didn't want to be in the same room with each other. But for the most part, it's been fun. But COVID's changed that. It's giving us actually more time. And, maybe we go back to table closings, and that's great, but I don't have to be there anymore. You don't have to be there anymore. And so having these resources available, meaning you don't have to do these things. It's just connecting the people with the right members of your team. If somebody asks me on a divorce, well, how's this going to impact our taxes? I don't need to know the answer to that, but who do I have on my team that can, hey, listen, do you want to talk to Dennis, or do you want to talk to my estate attorney, Daniel? Like they'll talk to you guys 45 minutes, an hour. They're not going to charge you anything to see if it's a right fit. That's what we're doing. We joke, you guys probably already know this because of your experience, but we're not really real estate brokers. We're more like therapists through the service industry of real estate. That's really what we are, right? We have to maintain the emotions. We have to keep everybody at peace. We take the heat. When the agent's pissed off about something, they're yelling at us, and then we relay it back to our principal, our buyer, our seller, in a nice, calm, communicable way. That's what we get. That's what we get paid for. We're really therapists. And ultimately, anybody involved in real estate, whether you're an investor or you're an agent, we're problem solvers. Sellers, buyers come to us with problems, and it's our job to slow the temperature down, adjust the thermostat in the room, calm everything down. And with short sales, that's what we get to do with the sellers, because a lot of investors have a profit mindset. Not good or bad, I'm just telling you, it's a profit mindset. They don't have the skills that we have as realtors for the personal side of it. So they're looking to bring realtors into their team that can do these short sales, because they're going to get a bunch of leads, like Mark said, and they'll be like, dude, that's like short sales. Like, I don't know if I want to do the short sale. And Kate, you can be like, you know what? I've got a great team that can handle short sales. I'd love to be that person that helps bridge that gap and work in that relationship. The other thing that we're doing is we're taking them, the investor, away from the relationship with that seller, meaning there's not as much, I don't use it in a bad way, but there's not as much babysitting that has to go on, because us as the broker is the intermediary. So that helps the investor as well, because now they can go back to continue to find more deals.
So two things that come up. This course is designed in two parts, right? Compassionate selling and working with a real estate investor. These are the two ways that you might find yourself in a short sale transaction. You were referred as a trusted, empathetic human being that can help this person through a really difficult time, right? Mm-hmm. Or you're shoulder to shoulder with a real estate investor who sees an opportunity that happens to be a short sale. How do you do that? Do you then sign up the seller, or do you bring in another agent to represent the seller? Because you're obviously bringing in the party that's going to facilitate and make it happen, right? So of the 222, you're coming in with an investor. You might get a commission, you might not, right? Because if you're looking for deals for an investor, sometimes a commission is not available. But if you come to a seller that you realize is a short sale, and by all bank guidelines has to have a fair offering to the public, thus they must list on MLS with a licensed agent. Mm-hmm. Do you, as investor agent, take on that exclusive listing where you now shift your fiduciary responsibility to the seller?
I don't. I mean, for years, I've never, 25th year now, I've never done a double close. I've never done a double commission. For me personally, I've never felt comfortable wearing two hats in a transaction, even though I think I can serve both people equally. I don't ever want either party thinking, is Spiros really looking out for me in this one, or is he looking out for the buyer in that? Right. So I would always just refer it out to another agent, either in my office or another agent that I've been friends with, done deals with over the years. So I'm happy giving up. I don't look at it as giving up a commission. What I'm doing is I'm strengthening a relationship. So, if I don't market myself in two different ways. That's why like the marketing for my investment company doesn't come from me. It comes from my team and my wife and my business partners that aren't licensed. And even when we get leads into my brokerage, I'm not the agent that's meeting with the homeowners. It's the top agents in my team that I'm giving that responsibility to, because I know they're going to nurture that relationship. To me, I wouldn't want to do it. I would find somebody local that you could connect with and partner up with on there. Same thing if so one person would be the buyer's rep for the investor. Maybe you would be the listing agent for the seller. Who cares? You get 25% of that commission that you're giving to that buyer's agent. And Mark's, or somebody like Mark's team, is doing all the negotiation for you. So basically you just need to say, oh, hey, we need an updated P&L. It's been 60 days. And you get that from the seller, you pass it over to them.
You're with the real estate investor. That real estate investor turns up, a street that they want to be on. They see this. They ask you to come in and basically represent them as buyer to see what kind of deal you could do, not knowing whether there's going to be a commission there, right? So you're not sure. Going in determines it's a short sale, bring in a listing agent. Now you're making a commission as the buyer's agent and potentially the referral fee to the listing agent. And then your buyer puts the trust into the facilitation of the short sale. It gets done. They buy this property. And then maybe what happens?
And then, if they buy the property and they're going to rehab it, then obviously we're going to potentially get listing on the back end of it.
Right. Where's the four? How do you get the four sides?
So first one is if we're the listing agent on the sale, we're the buyer's agent on the sale because the investor, it's our relation. We're bringing it to the investor first. Then we get to list the property. And then the fourth one is because our market is so competitive, we're controlling the inventory now. We market that out. If we market it appropriately to the local neighborhood, like I said, if you do like a 100-house circle around where the subject property is, where your listing is, you might have buyers just coming from that open house. You can do pre-MLS listing marketing, and then you can put on the MLS. I know some agents that have actually made multiple commissions from the open house because most people who come to the open house don't buy. They don't necessarily like the open house, but if they like the agent, they're going to be like, well, I don't want, the kitchen's not big enough for me. And you're like, oh, you know what? There's a big one down the street that I know that's coming up that I showed last week. Like that might be, so they're selling other buyers. So that's where you're getting 4 and more commissions. But that's the reason that's powerful is because the average agent, now not Kate and Esin, but the average agent across the country, I think does like 3.6 transactions a year. Because most agents, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but most people have the real estate license as a hobby. Right. They're not professionals.
So before I move on, I have Mary Sue's asking a question, but I want to ask Esin some questions about the city and her investors after Mary Sue asks her question. Go, Mary Sue.
Okay, so my question is, I'm not a realtor. I'm not even really, I don't know how I would describe myself as far as real estate investment. I buy and manage houses on the short-term rental market. However, what happens when you're driving down the street or you're online and you see a property that says pre-foreclosure and it's been in that pre-foreclosure listing for 8 months? What exactly does that mean? And let's just say I want to research how I can get into that house and what I can do to be in the running if that house actually ever comes on the market. Where do you go from there? Do you call a lawyer? Do you call a realtor? Do you reach out to the owner? What do you do?
So what says pre-foreclosure on it? Is it a realtor listing sign? Is it just a sign?
So there are, let's say there's a couple that say pre-foreclosure on MLS, and let's say they also are listed in the newspaper as a pre-foreclosure. Okay,
so if it's listed in the MLS, I would encourage you to call the listing agent. Build your relationship.
But there's no listing agent. It's just listed as, is it MLS? What am I talking about?
Zillow too.
Yeah, Zillow. Sorry, not
Zillow.
MLS.
Okay,
Zillow as pre-foreclosure.
Got you. Okay. So if it's pre-foreclosure that way, then I would just search you. I mean, again, I know you said you were in Vermont right now. I don't know where you live normally, but most county records are online. So you should be able to search the tax records online to find out that owner information. And I would send them a letter and just see, hey, I saw that again, this is what investors are doing, where we're targeting specific lists, and there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And again, I know myself, I'm doing it with compassion. I'm not looking to scrape every single dollar out of that transaction and put it into my pocket. I'm looking to solve the problem that they have right now, which is they don't want to answer the phone. They're scared when somebody knocks at the door. They're avoiding the situation as long as they possibly can, hoping for somebody to come in on a unicorn white horse with a rainbow horn to save the day. And the reason I know that is because that's what I did. And I was stupid. That's why two of my houses went to foreclosure, because I kept thinking I could figure it out myself, and I was wrong. The houses that I pulled out of foreclosure and I was able to do loan modifications on, one of them I'm sitting in right now on the Cape, was because I hired a real estate attorney. And he started negotiating with the bank. And all of a sudden, different attitude. So people don't want to do that because, first of all, it costs money to hire a real estate attorney. Well, we can give them a lot of those services inside of the realm of the transaction. So Mary, I'd encourage you to start looking locally in your county. I'll share another website with you guys if you want. It's basically just a skip tracing software. If you guys don't know what skip tracing is, it's basically you put in somebody's information and it goes to the internet and it tells you all the public record data that it's called. So it's very spooky that that's all this information out there, first of all. The website is called Spokeo, SPOKEO.com. SPOKEO.com. It should be called Spookio because it's really crazy how much information is out there. So they'll charge you on like a dollar or $1.50 per search, or I think you can do like a monthly plan. So it's unlimited for like, I don't know, $25 a month or something like that. But I'm just telling you that. So Sue, if you're looking for that, you could go and put that address, go into Spokeo, pay $1.50, and they'll give you their mailing address. If it's not the same, the ownership information, phone numbers, emails, Facebook accounts.
Can't you just go on the assessor's list and get the same thing?
Yeah, I'm saying if you can't find it on the assessor's list or you're not on the public records,
Gotcha.
then that's some more information that you can get.
Okay, very
But
helpful.
yeah, the other thing though, email. You could send somebody, more people read email than they do the snail mail. So if you can get somebody's email address, you just reach out to say, listen, my name's Sue. We've been driving by your house. Just be you. We drive by your house. We live in the area. Just wondering what's going on with it. We'd be interested we're looking to buy another property in the area. That's all. You're not trying to be a jerk or don't sound like a super professional investor. People don't like that. Just be you.
Saw your house, love the neighborhood, really want to be in that neighborhood, wondering what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there anything we can help you with?
And as a real estate agent, right, wondering what you're doing, have a lot of people that are interested in this neighborhood. Right.
Yeah.
And then, and with COVID, there's not a lot of door knocking going on, but it goes back to the roots like that, like knock, knock, wake up. There's a solution here. Are you going to wait too long, or are you going to open up the idea that maybe you can go to South Carolina and live a lot cheaper? Maybe it's time to go live in New Hampshire in the mountains that you've always wanted to do. Knock, knock. Here's your opportunity. Open the door. And it might be Mary Sue on the other end, or it might be Kate or Esin on the other end who's saying, let me walk through it. Let me see what you got, and let me do what you do. Now, there's a number of ways of finding these deals. I want to talk about that too. Spiros was kind enough to source these. That's when you see them, right? So you see this property, you drive by, but there's other sources also other than driving by the property. There's probate courts, there's bankruptcy courts. It takes a much more diligence to do that. But if you're, willing to do that, you can dig it up. And foreclosure auction.
If you use those two websites that I get, List Source and Adam Data, you can search that stuff directly.
Really? I'm going to check those out because those.
Yeah, and so again, you can layer it, and you can do the search. You'll set up a free account. The searches are free. It tells you how many searches it are. And then you can really parcel it out to a price range, a zip code. I mean, it's ages. I mean, it's crazy all the data is being accumulated across the world.
How accurate is the underwater one? I mean, they're just doing a they're just aggregating mortgage that's principal online, right? Versus value presumptions through another
Yeah,
algorithm.
and I think they also aggregate the length of the mortgage. So, you know, obviously
do?
something that's less than 10 years is going to have obviously a lot less principal buy down than something that's 20, you know,
So they'll try to predict the bit buy
Yeah.
down also. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. I'm going to check those out.
Yeah.
But before we do go, we have a hard stop at 12 o'clock. I want to talk about the city of Boston, Esin. What is going on in the city of Boston? You have a lot of investors that bought a lot of units that they're renting and doing all that. Are they looking to buy more, or are they looking to unload?
So, I mean, it depends on the location and who you are renting to. And in this city, there are a lot of investors who bought condos for like mostly for student profile. And they are definitely hurting right now because in general, the lease cycle is in September. We were still not able to rent many of the units yet. So whoever is in the location where close to universities and dorms and everything, so they are all hurting. But at the same time, what we did was we kind of foreseen that in the beginning of the COVID, because of course it's going to affect the movement around rental because people don't want to move basically. Either they prefer to renew their license lease, or they basically just not pay. That's what happened in there. So what we did was, as soon as COVID hit, we just connected with the tenants, and instead of waiting for their lease renewal date, we offered them 1 month rent free if they set the lease for the next year. So it helped a lot. They were actually able to do that because no one wanted to, and especially in the beginning with the panic, people are not knowing the situation, they acted very quickly. Instead of taking the risk, they said, okay, we're going to stay here and it's a good deal. So we were 2-3 of my investors, I just applied this strategy and try to secure them with the current tenants that they have. So, but at the same time, there are landlords that are not able to get paid for a long time by now. And even though now they had the extension almost done and everything, they know that it's been so long, they might not be able to find the new client after the eviction and stuff. And they are planning to actually sell those condos and move the money in different areas. So
so where are the values on that now?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Where is the value on the unit that they want to sell now? Have we seen a decrease?
Definitely. So then in the beginning, actually, when you were talking about it, especially in Seaport, Back Bay area, we were selling 1 bedrooms in those high residences, high rises, like 3-4 million starting point. Now they all changed the price level. And what they want to do is these people who live there, they don't want to share any common areas, as we spoke. They don't want to, just see other people in the same places. So they are moving to suburbs. And since you can actually work from home, the location doesn't mean anything for them anymore. So it definitely hurt the high-rise, mid-rise in Seaport and Back Bay area in Boston, Commonwealth. We see a lot of price changes in there.
But like at what percentage? If it was $1,000 a square foot, are we at $700 a square foot?
Totally. Yes, definitely. I can tell you that. Yeah. But at the same time, it helps suburbs to increase the price per square footage too. I most work in Newton, and in general, I sell houses average 1.5. Now I'm able to see that it was $400, $450 per square footage. Now it's 548, 560, and it is going. So one side is hurting, but one side also improving because of this crisis. So, I mean, hard to say more details on it right now, because as I said, I work with very specific people. Like two mostly. One, international investors, they basically just want to have an asset in United States, and they have specific locations so that they don't care even if it is low right now or high right now. They just want to buy it in that specific.
So they're still coming in and buying.
They're still coming, exactly.
And getting deals like on a dollar cost average, they're going to just keep buying it wherever it is to have them in here. Interesting.
The only thing that I noticed, the tendency of negotiation changed a little bit. They definitely wanna, I never experienced this before, they wanna put an offer less than 200K, 300K less than asking right now. It wasn't like that. They were okay with maybe 50K before, but now they feel like there is gonna be some hurt going on and they wanna get this advantage for themselves. Paying cash basically motivates the sellers to go down 100K and to 200K. And as a realtor, I need to guide the investor. And if I'm on the listing side, I need to guide the sellers when I get a cash offer. I am struggling because like rationally, I can't put those into numbers because it's not rational. You can't say that this house worth less than 300K, but they just want to put it out there and see where it goes basically. So negotiation is totally different right now. And buyers are with the mortgage situation, but buyers are able to get good rates. So there are a lot of competition around there. So if you have a cash buyer, you are a winner. You can't beat the cash offer.
By them lowballing it, it puts in the mind of that seller, I got to get out of here before this is the real value.
Exactly. They think that actually this is their value, and if they don't sell it quickly, it will hit them a few months later, and they need to reduce the price. Well, this is like the psychology of investors play game. Basically, it's not the reality sometimes. But what happens is this game started to become reality, because when it starts reflecting the numbers, what happens is people, when they get an offer, they think that, okay, they are not going to be able to get any more, and they just get desperate to get the cash offers and not evaluate the other offer that is maybe more than that, but because it's mortgage and they think that it's a risky situation. So
let me interrupt you. I know, Spiros, you have to jump on a coaching call. What I'm going to do after the class is I'm going to send out an email to everybody with some of Spiros's information. If you want to reach out to him, he's open to having conversations. I'm going to stick around for like 5 more minutes.
Can I close for just a couple minutes?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you guys go. So first of all, thank you for letting me have this opportunity. Hopefully you guys have gotten some good information. I do want to share a couple of things for, I know the two of you are realtors right now. Would you guys like me to show you how to find the top investors in your marketplace right now?
sure,
Would you like that?
that would be amazing.
Okay, very simple. Go to the markets that you're working in and search on the MLS for cash sales over the last 3 to 6 months. It's not rocket science. I'm telling you, I'm not smarter than anybody. Mark will attest to that. So you go there, search your MLS. You can even search local data, because local public records too, because of auctions, all that stuff. But just start with the MLS, because we have that data. It'll take us 5 minutes to do it. Pull up cash sales from the last 3 to 6 months, and then cross-reference that address that was a cash sale with the present owner of it, and you just found yourself the top investors in your marketplace. It's not that hard. Okay. I want to leave you with that. The other thing I want to let you guys know, Sue, you're an investor. I know, Esin, you were asking about investing. One of the companies that we own is called Investors National. And what we are is we're a national community of investors. We're also a private and hard money lender, as well as a national commercial insurance broker. So I know, Esin, you said you were having trouble getting financing. I would love for you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is spelled correctly in my box right over here, but Mark will send out an email as well. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's stay connected however I can help you with that. I know lenders all over the country, whether we do it or other than that, can absolutely help international investors very, very easily, as well as local investors. And then for your investors that own rental properties or any type of investment property, Sue, yourself or other investors, we work in commercial insurance, which will allow investors with multiple assets across state lines and asset classes. So if they own a multifamily in Dorchester and they own a single family in Worcester and they own a storage unit in Alabama, we can put them on one universal insurance policy, one deductible. It covers all their liability, all that stuff. And we're saving investors anywhere from 15 to 20%, having multiple premiums in multiple states and all that stuff, because we put them on a commercial grade policy, not like the residential stuff. So again, happy to talk to you guys if you guys are looking to do. I know Sue said she did property management, so ways to save the people that we're serving money. And again, there's no cost for us to run a quote on any of that stuff. So I think that's it, man. Thank you so much, you guys. I apologize I have to run, but hopefully Mark will have me on here doing something else. I'd love to keep teaching you guys and helping you guys grow. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catch up with you later. So again, the curriculum is over, but if we want to stay on for a few more minutes and ask some of the unasked questions, otherwise you're free to go. We will get a certificate out to you if you were looking for continuing ed. If not, tell your friends, because this is the message that we're sending week after week. The class will change a little bit, but the goal of it is to really dial in on two things: distress and opportunities, right? And that's really what it comes down to in the market that we're going to be looking at. And those will be the transactions that will be available for you, and how you want to fit into the box of those two types of transactions will be up to you, but there's room and there's abundance for all. So, to think like an investor, to have compassion, it can't hurt no matter what. You're just growing and gaining more knowledge. So let your colleagues know about it. This is what we're going to be talking about for the near future, to help really, truly loosen up inventory, because the real message is, can we get to them first? Can we get to the people that need to sell before it's too late? And ultimately what that does, one way or another, whether you're selling it to a first-time home buyer couple, or you're selling it to a downsizer, or you're selling it to a real estate investor, it accomplishes the same thing, and it's a transaction. And that's what y'all are in business to do, is to conduct transactions. So any last minute questions? I know that Mary Sue's got to run, but that was fun. Hopefully we answered a bunch of her questions and get her into the game of real estate. But does anybody else have any questions before we jump?
Thanks, Mark. That was awesome. Have a great day.
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you.